Hey everybody, I'm going to be showing you how to create a dual exposure. We're going to follow through these steps together so that you're able to create a photo with this effect using some of your knowledge about the layer tools, about creating masks, and about your previously covered tools such as dodge and burn. This is also going to build on the black and white image adjustments, and it's going to prepare you to create a dual exposure image entirely of your own that I am not creating with you. So our first step is to have an image imported into Photopea. So I've opened up an image and I want a high quality image because you're going to notice that rather quickly, if you're working with a low quality image or one that you can't really distinguish the pixels from each other, it's going to turn into a real challenge for you. So I have my background in. I'm going to go ahead and get the landscape picture that's been provided to us. And I'm going to go ahead and click on it to open. Now at this point, what I want you to start thinking about is how you're going to arrange the image and your model together. So for example, if I go ahead, I have my picture like this. Notice that my darkness is mostly to the right side. And I check back to my picture of my model. Well, it might get challenging because I have the forest kind of where his major details are, like facial details. So I'm going to want to flip this image. I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, and Flip horizontally. There we go. So now we can avoid that same problem where everything went super dark by his facial features. Now at this point that you have the two images into your Photopea, I'm going to ask that you turn your model to be purely black and white. And not only that, but I want you to also have a fair amount of contrast in the skin. So I'm going to black and white. As I look through these sliders, I'm keeping in mind that the more contrast, the easier my job will be. Some of them you'll find they don't really have any major differences. And we're all set. Now, at this point, we can start to talk about layer masks. So what a layer mask is of course, a way which you can not have to worry about permanent erasing being done on your image. So as we looked at the dog and cat exercise before, if I were to erase part of my model's face, I wouldn't be able to get it back. But instead, what we're going to do, well, we're going to be able to customize it and say, okay, I want it to be a little bit darker, I want it to be a little bit lighter, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the image of my model and go to Layer, Duplicate. You can also right-click on it. And where I'm going to have to start by adding a mask is because I want my landscape behind my figure. I want my landscape to be just inside my figure's head. So in order to do so, I have a couple options. I could use the lasso tools, though it's a real challenge for some certain shapes. I could use quick selection to select like colors. I could use the magic wand tools to select all colors that are basically the same. And I could select the object selection tool. It doesn't matter which one you do, some will work better for others. Using the object selection tool here, Whoops, I was actually selecting the trees in the background. Let's try that on our person. And it looks like it did a pretty good job. There is a bit that's missing throughout the shirt. So that might be something that I go in and I hand paint later. So what I'm going to do to create a layer mask, of course, is to click on the Add Raster Mask button, or Add Layer Mask. And we can see here that this mask blocked out all that white space rather than blocking out the space of the figure. So what I'm going to do, I noticed that this would be perfect if it were the exact opposite. So I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and Invert. And now, with that being said, the invert will make it so that you can see only through the person. We see our landscape layer through him. And then lastly, we have our original image in the background. Now, this is already kind of looking cool, but to take it to the next step, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on bringing some of those facial features back. Using the hand tool to move around. So I'll take my brush out. I want to start revealing a little bit, so I'll take my white into the foreground. You can also just click on the top one, top left corner of that, and then you'll have white. Now I want to make sure that I'm not painting on my person layer. I want to make sure that I'm not painting on my background layer. If I'm painting on my background layer, I'm going to be losing those details. So I want to just go on my person layer. And at this point, I'll start to refine and bring some of those details out. I might decide too at this moment that, well, I think this would have looked better if I had chosen a different image, or if my person was the same color. My person was the same color as the background image. It's kind of up to you how you depend and think on that. I'm going to say maybe the background, the landscape would look a little bit nicer if it were the same exact color. So I'm going to Image, Adjustments, Black and White. Still not sure how I feel about it. Now that I slide my, or play with my sliders a little bit more, I'm getting a look that I think is a little bit more desirable. And lastly, you can also create effects that go off the page. For example, just because I have this this here selected doesn't mean that I couldn't go in and create some effects that way. Creating like a little bit of a smoky effect here. Maybe I should bring that over. You may notice too that because I'm dragging and dropping it over here, that it's lining up to the corner. And at this point, it's kind of just, you can keep on playing with it, see what happens that you like, see what happens that you don't like, be ready to hit Control Z. but this is the idea behind a dual exposure, or a work that you would have typically had to expose a camera twice. With that being said, this project is going to be due with your project part 1, and you're also going to be completing the same thing for images that are totally your own. So when you're looking for images of your own, you want to make sure that you're using that tools drop down in Google that says large size. That way you'll find high definition pictures. Please let me know if you have any questions about this dual exposure here. This is the foundation to, again, using layers, layer styles, and eventually creating one of your own for the next upcoming lesson. Feel free to reach out.